Two voices in the silence. The bus was loud, not with people, but with the sound of wheels grinding on old city roads. It was a cold Tuesday morning in Los Angeles, and most of the passengers were quiet, hiding behind headphones or lost in tired thoughts. Nobody talked, nobody smiled. The air felt heavy with silence and stress, until the small voices began to sing. They came from the back of the bus, two young girls, maybe 9 or 10 years old. Their clothes were torn and didn't fit right. Their shoes had holes, their cheeks were pale. But when they sang, something shifted in the air. Their voices weren't perfect, they were soft, shaky, but there was something in them: honesty, pain, and a strange kind of hope. People turned to look, some with surprise, some with annoyance, others just curious. The girls stood close together, hands gripping each other tight. One held a small tin can. A few coins rattled inside. They sang an old song. It wasn't popular. Maybe something their mother used to sing. Their voices rose and fell like waves, trembling but brave. They looked at no one, just kept singing, eyes on the floor. Their faces didn't ask for pity. They didn't look ashamed. They just needed help. One woman near the front rolled her eyes and turned up her music. A man near the window threw in $1 and gave them a small nod. An old lady closed her eyes and whispered something under her breath, maybe a prayer. But none of them noticed the man sitting 3 seats away from the back. He wore a baseball cap pulled low, sunglasses over his eyes, and a plain black hoodie. He looked like anyone else, quiet, tired, blending in, except he wasn't just anyone. It was Keanu Reeves. He had taken the bus that day to clear his mind. Hollywood meetings, interviews, constant attention. It had all felt too much lately. So he woke up early, wore simple clothes, and just wandered. No driver, no assistant, just him and the city. When he heard the girls singing, he didn't move at first. He just listened, and something in their voices touched something deep inside him. It wasn't just the sadness or the courage. It was something else, something he couldn't explain. He took off his sunglasses slowly, looked at them carefully. They were twins. One had a scratch above her eyebrow. The other had band-aids on her hands. Their eyes were tired, older than their age. And yet, they stood with quiet strength, like they had done this 100 times and would do it 100 more. The bus stopped. A few people got off. The girls stopped singing and walked forward. Their clinking. One by one, they asked passengers, "Please, anything helps." Some turned away. Some nodded and gave change. Some pretended to be asleep. Then they reached Keanu. The girl with the scratch held out the can. "Sir, we don't want to bother you. Just, if you have anything." Keanu didn't speak. He just looked at them. His heart was pounding. He reached into his pocket and dropped in a $20 bill. The girls stared at it, shocked. Then he gently asked, "What's your name?" "I'm Ruby," the girl said softly. "She's Rose. We're twins." "Where are your parents?" he asked, careful not to sound too direct. Ruby looked down. "Mom's sick. Dad left. We sing on buses. Try to buy food." Keanu didn't know what to say. He'd seen pain before. He'd lived through grief. But these were children, and the way they stood there, brave, broken, and still polite, it made something ache inside him. He nodded. "You both have beautiful voices." They smiled a little. Rose whispered, "Thank you." The bus jolted forward again. The driver shouted, "Next stop, Hollywood and Vine." Keanu looked out the window. His stop was coming, but something told him not to get off yet. Not this time. He looked back at Ruby and Rose. "Can I ask you something?" They nodded. Double quotes. "What would you do?" he asked. "If someone gave you a real chance?" They looked confused. Ruby replied, "We'd sing more. Maybe get a house and a puppy," Rose added. "And ice cream." Keanu smiled, but inside, something had already shifted. He didn't know what yet, but he knew this. He couldn't just walk away. Outside, the bus rolled past fancy shops and big posters of movies, some with Keanu's face on them. But inside, the story was different. A real story was just beginning, and none of them knew where it would lead. Not the girls, not the passengers, not even Keanu. But in that moment, on that cold morning, something magical had begun. Something that would change all their lives. Forever. Asterisk. A promise made in silence. Next stop came Hollywood and Vine. The bus hissed and slowed. People shuffled out, some brushing past the girls without a glance. Keanu didn't move. He just sat there, his fingers resting on his knees, his mind spinning. He had told himself to stay quiet that day. No cameras, no headlines, just a normal day like anyone else. But what he had just seen, two young girls singing with pain and pride in their voices, was not something he could walk away from. Ruby and Rose moved toward the back again. The small tin can was heavier now, but not by much. It would buy maybe one meal, two if they were careful. They had done this routine many times before. Buses were safe, warmer than the streets, and the singing made people feel something. It gave them a reason to give. At least some of them. As they passed Keanu again, Rose turned and said quietly, "Thank you again." "Sir, really?" He nodded. "Can I ride a little longer with you?" They looked at each other, unsure. Ruby hesitated. Okay. He smiled gently and stood up, walking with them to the very back of the bus. He sat across from them, careful not to make it feel strange. Just 3 passengers, sitting in silence. After a few minutes, he spoke again. "How long have you been doing this?" Ruby looked out the window. "Since last summer. We had to leave our house. Mom got really sick. We stayed in shelters, but they're scary sometimes. So we started singing. It felt safer." Rose added, "People used to smile more. Now they just ignore us." Keanu listened closely. He didn't interrupt. He could tell they didn't open up easily, but something in his presence made them feel just a little safer. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small notebook. It was worn, filled with old notes, quotes, and ideas. He flipped to a blank page and scribbled something. "Do you have a safe place to go now?" he asked. Ruby shook her head. "We stay near the library at night, behind the back wall. It's quiet there." Keanu nodded slowly. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked, "Do you trust me?" Both girls looked up, suddenly unsure. Ruby's hand grabbed Rose's without thinking. He added gently, "I'm not asking you to go anywhere. Not now, not alone. But maybe you could let me help you, a little. Maybe we get something warm to eat." "Just that," Rose whispered. "Why would you do that?" His voice was quiet. "Because someone once helped me, when I had nothing." The girls didn't know his name. They didn't know the man sitting across from them had made millions, that he was one of the most loved actors in the world. To them, he was just someone kind, someone listening. The bus rolled on. Finally, Ruby nodded. "Okay, just dinner, that's all." Keanu smiled. "Deal." They got off at the next stop. He stayed a step behind them, never rushing, never making them feel followed. Just present, just calm. They walked together past closed shops, street performers, and tourists. Keanu led them to a small diner tucked away on a quiet corner. Not fancy, not loud, just warm and simple. The hostess looked surprised as Keanu walked in. Her eyes widened slightly, but he gave her a quick, gentle nod. That said, "Please don't make a big deal." She understood. They sat in a booth. The girls were nervous at first, unsure if they were allowed to be there. But Keanu made them feel safe. He didn't treat them like charity. He treated them like guests. When the waitress came, Ruby ordered eggs and toast. Rose wanted pancakes. Keanu ordered coffee and let the girls choose whatever they wanted. For the first time in weeks, they were full. As they ate, their shoulders relaxed. They talked more, shared small things. Ruby loved drawing. Rose liked to make up songs. Their mom, they said, used to work in a flower shop. She got sick slowly. First it was tiredness. Then she couldn't walk much. Now she stayed in a corner of an abandoned building where they all slept at night. She didn't talk much anymore. "She smiles when we sing," Rose said. "But she's always cold." Keanu's heart sank. The food before him didn't matter anymore. Only their words did. After dinner, he paid the bill quietly. He left a generous tip. The girls thanked him, unsure what to say. Nobody had ever done something like this. As they walked out, he handed them a small card. It had a number written on it. "If anything happens, if you need help, call this number," he said. Ruby looked at it. "Who will answer?" Keanu smiled. Me. They didn't know what to say. He didn't push them. He just said gently, "You don't have to trust me right now. But someday, maybe you will." Then he added, "Can I walk you to your mom, Ruby?" Nodded slowly. Rose looked up at the sky. It's getting dark. They walked together, past alleys and walls covered in graffiti. Finally, they reached the back of the public library, a small space behind a dumpster, shielded from the wind. A few blankets were piled up. A woman was there, wrapped in an old coat. She looked up, weak and tired. "Mom," Ruby called softly. The woman smiled faintly. "You're back." Keanu stood at a distance. He didn't intrude. He just watched. Then Ruby turned to him. "This is our mom. Her name is Elena." Keanu stepped forward. "It's nice to meet you, Elena." She looked at him carefully. "You help them?" "Just dinner," he said humbly. She looked at him a moment longer, then nodded. "Thank you." Keanu looked at the sky. It was almost night. Before he left, he looked at the girls and said one last thing. "Keep singing, but not forever. Someday soon, your song should change." They didn't understand fully, but they would, because Keanu had already made a decision. He didn't say it out loud yet, but inside, it was clear this wasn't going to end here. Not on a cold sidewalk, not with two little girls singing for coins. He was going to help, in a way no one expected. Asterisk whispers behind the walls. Night grew colder as Keanu walked away from the library. The streetlights flickered above him, casting long shadows that danced with every step. But his mind wasn't on the street. It stayed behind, with the girls, with Elena, their sick mother, lying behind a dumpster in silence. He had seen pain before. He had lived through loss, loneliness, and moments when hope seemed far away. But this felt different. Maybe because it was so close. Maybe because it was so unfair. Or maybe because those girls, despite everything, had kept singing. He didn't sleep that night. He sat by his window, notebook in hand, and thought of a plan. Not a grand one, not for the press, not for fame, but something quiet, something that could change 3 lives. The next morning, he made calls, not to his agent, not to his movie team. Instead, to an old friend named Luis, a man who had once been homeless himself, and now ran a small shelter that actually helped, with no red tape and no judgment. Keanu said, "There's a mother and 2 little girls. They're living behind the library. I need your help." Luis didn't ask why. He just said, "I'll be there in 1 hour." Meanwhile, Ruby and Rose woke up early. Their mother had coughed through the night. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. Ruby gave her the pancakes she had saved. Rose offered her coat. Even though it was barely warm, they planned to sing again. Same routine, maybe the red line today, maybe a different bus. But as they stood, ready to go, a man appeared. Not Keanu. A different man, tall, with kind eyes and a backpack full of supplies. "Hi," he said gently. "My name's Luis. A friend sent me. He said you might need help." Ruby stepped in front of Rose, protective. "Who sent you?" she asked. "A man in a hoodie," Luis replied. "He said he gave you dinner last night. He said you sing like angels." Rose blinked. "He sent you?" Luis smiled. "He did. And he said to tell you he meant what he said." He knelt down, not too close, and opened his bag. Inside were blankets, juice boxes, fruit, clean socks, and a small first aid kit. "I run a shelter not far from here," he said. "Only a few families at a time. No big rooms, just small warm spaces. We have doctors too, and music classes." Ruby's eyes narrowed. "Music?" He nodded. "We help kids learn to write songs, play instruments, record voices." Rose whispered. "We don't have money." "You don't need money," Luis replied. "Your voices are already enough." Elena coughed from her corner. She looked at him with tired eyes. "You're serious?" Luis nodded. "Very." By evening, Keanu came back. He wore the same hoodie, the same cap, but this time, the girls recognized his walk before he even spoke. "You came back," Ruby said. "I told you I would." He smiled. They told him about Luis, about the supplies, about the music classes. He nodded. "I trust him. He'll keep you safe." Then Ruby asked softly, "Why are you helping us?" Keanu sat on the edge of the wall and looked up at the sky. "When I was young, I lost people I loved. My life was full of noise, but my heart felt empty. I hid that for a long time. But one day, someone helped me. Not because they had to, but because they could. Now I do the same." Rose whispered, "Are you famous?" Keanu smiled slowly. "Sometimes, but that doesn't matter. What matters is this." He pulled out his notebook. On a new page, he had written a simple line, "Ruby." And Rose's first album, Songs from the Bus. The girls stared at it. "You're going to make an album?" Ruby asked. "We're going to make it together," he said. "Real instruments, real recording. And you'll tell your story through music." Elena looked at him, tears in her eyes. They've never had something to believe in. Keanu nodded. Now they do. Within 3 days, Luis helped move Elena and the girls into the shelter. It wasn't big, but it was clean and warm. They had a room with a small heater, fresh sheets, and even a poster of a guitar on the wall. Keanu came every day, sometimes with food, sometimes with books, but always with time, and always with belief. He brought a small keyboard and taught Rose how to play simple chords. Ruby started writing lyrics in an old diary. One morning, she showed him a page. The title was, "I Sang So You'd See Me." He read it, then looked at her with quiet pride. "This," he said, "is where your song begins." They practiced for hours, sometimes in the shelter, sometimes on the old bus, parked in the lot behind the center, the same bus where he had first heard them. He filmed their rehearsals, not for the internet, not for press, but for memory, for truth. One day, he brought a small camera and asked, "Can I tell your story, only if you want me to, so others can see, so others can care?" Ruby looked at Rose. They nodded. "But not as poor kids," Ruby said. "As singers and sisters," Rose added. Keanu smiled. Deal. Weeks passed. Elena began to recover slowly. Medicine helped, rest helped more. And the sound of her daughters singing every morning healed something deeper. And Keanu, he didn't walk away. He stayed, not as a star, not as a hero, but as a man who chose kindness. Because once upon a time, 2 little girls sang on a bus. And he listened. And now, the world would too. The sound of belief. The sun was gentle that morning. Not too hot, not too cold. A perfect morning for something new. Keanu stood outside the small recording studio he had rented. It wasn't a giant place with flashing lights or golden walls. It was simple, tucked in a quiet corner of downtown, surrounded by a mural of painted butterflies and children holding microphones. It was a place for stories, not fame, not noise, just stories. And today, Ruby and Rose would begin to tell theirs. They arrived with Luis. Both girls wore fresh clothes, simple jeans, soft sweaters, and secondhand sneakers, but they looked brighter. Their faces had more color now. Their eyes held something new, something Keanu hadn't seen the first day they sang on that bus. Hope. Keanu smiled as he opened the studio door. "Ready?" Rose bit her lip. "What if we mess up?" He crouched down to her level. "Music isn't about perfection, it's about truth. And you both already have that." Ruby looked around the studio. There was a big microphone, a small keyboard, a drum set in the corner, and a glass window separating the sound booth. She had seen places like this in movies, but never in real life. Never for her. A woman walked in, tall, kind-eyed, wearing headphones around her neck. "This is Maya," Keanu said. "She's going to help produce your songs. She's one of the best." Maya smiled at the girls. "You must be Ruby and Rose. I've heard about your voices. I can't wait to hear them." The girls giggled softly, still a little nervous. Maya bent down and said, "The only rule here is be you." They started with warm-ups. Maya played notes on the piano. The girls repeated. Slowly, their voices opened up. Rose's voice had a soft, dreamy tone. Ruby's was stronger, a little deeper. Together, they blended like morning light and quiet thunder. Keanu sat in the corner, watching, not interfering. He knew this moment wasn't about him. It was theirs. Maya asked them to sing something they wrote. Ruby pulled out her notebook, open to a page titled "Don't Forget Me When You Close Your Eyes." The room grew quiet. Maya nodded. Let's try it. Rose stepped to the mic first. Her voice trembled at the start, but Ruby squeezed her hand gently. Then Ruby joined in, and the room filled with a soft, haunting harmony. The lyrics spoke of buses, cold benches, kind strangers, and dreams hidden in dirty backpacks. Maya didn't stop them, not even once, when they finished. The silence that followed felt heavier than applause. Maya wiped a tear. That was beautiful. Keanu looked at the girls, his throat tight. You did it. The next few days were full of recording, learning, laughing. The girls began to open up not just in music, but in life. They danced between takes. Rose made jokes about becoming the next Taylor Swift, but with more sandwiches. Ruby asked questions about microphones and sound waves. They were growing. Not just as singers. As children. As dreamers. Meanwhile, Keanu stayed involved in every step. He didn't just write checks. He showed up. He sat with Elena at her checkups. He helped carry groceries to the shelter. He even made hot chocolate for the kids on rainy days. The shelter had changed too. With support from Keanu's quiet donations, Luis had expanded the space, added more beds, more books, music classes, art walls. He refused to let anyone call it a charity. It's a stage, he said, for voices the world forgot to hear. But word began to spread. A man at the coffee shop heard the girls sing during practice and posted a video online. The video showed nothing but two small girls in a studio singing with closed eyes, pure and clear. No names, no location. But the internet noticed. Who are they? These girls sing like they've lived 1,000 lives. Whoever they are, they deserve the world. It went viral. Views grew. Comments exploded. Keanu wasn't surprised. He had felt it to that raw, honest sound that couldn't be faked. But he still kept the truth private. No media, no interviews. Not yet. Until one day, as they were leaving the studio, Ruby asked him, "Can we tell people now?" He paused. "Are you sure?" Rose nodded. "Maybe someone else is like us. Maybe they need to hear." He looked at Maya. She smiled. "We can release the song online. Just the first one." So they did. They uploaded the track under the name The Twin Voices. No pictures. Just a simple cover to small silhouettes holding hands under a streetlight. Within hours, it spread. Music blogs picked it up. Radio hosts played it with no background story. But the world felt it. Then came a message from a music academy. "We heard the track. We want to offer full scholarships, voice training, instruments, anything they need." Keanu showed the girls the message. Ruby stared at the screen, not speaking. Rose blinked hard. "Is it real?" Ruby asked. He nodded. "Yes, it's real." They hugged him, hard, tighter than ever before. Then Keanu made a quiet promise to himself. He would keep walking beside them, not just to help, but to protect. Because the world would soon know their names. And with fame comes risk. He wasn't going to let anything break them, not after how far they had come. Not after the song they had sung in silence. Now the silence was broken, and the world was listening. Asterisk echoes on the staggered auditorium. Lights were dim. The quiet buzz of the audience filled the air. Whispers, footsteps, camera clicks, soft and nervous sounds waiting for something to begin. Rows of people sat facing a small wooden stage, unsure what to expect. It wasn't a concert hall or a giant arena, just a community space in downtown Los Angeles, filled with people who came because they heard a song sung by two unknown girls with no last name, no label, no backstory, only a sound that had touched hearts. Behind the stage, Ruby held Rose's hand. "I can't breathe," Rose whispered. Ruby squeezed tighter. "Yes, you can. We've sung on buses with people yelling and coughing and not caring. This is better." Keanu walked in, wearing his usual hoodie and jeans, holding two small lavender flowers. He handed one to each girl and said, "You don't have to be perfect, just be true." They nodded. He looked at Elena, who sat in her wheelchair nearby, wrapped in a blanket. Her cheeks had color now. Her eyes had light. She looked proud. Then came the moment. Maya stepped up to the microphone. "Good evening. Thank you all for being here. Tonight is special. Because tonight, you don't just hear music, you hear strength. You hear the journey of two girls who refuse to be silent. The audience clapped politely. Then Ruby and Rose walked out, holding hands. The light hit their faces. Rose blinked fast. Ruby took one deep breath. The music started. Just piano at first. Then their voices soft, almost like a whisper, slipped into the room. They sang the first lines of Don't Forget Me When You Close Your Eyes. And the room stopped breathing. No phones. No talking. Just listening. Their voices grew stronger, not because of volume, but because of feeling. They sang of nights on cold benches, of the way hunger felt like thunder in the stomach, of the joy in finding $1, of their mother's smile even when her eyes were full of pain. People in the front row started crying. Halfway through the song, Keanu looked around. Grown men had their hands over their mouths. Women held each other. Even Maya wiped her eyes at the sound booth. When the last note ended, there was silence. Then applause, not the loud, wild kind. But the deep kind. The kind that came from the soul. Ruby and Rose bowed, not dramatically, just gently, like they were still on a bus. They walked off stage, trembling. Keanu met them backstage. He didn't speak. He just knelt down and opened his arms. They fell into him. Rose cried. Ruby shook. He held them tight. You did it, he whispered. You told the world. For the next few weeks, everything changed. Their song was played on radios across the country. Famous singers tweeted about them. Music magazines wanted interviews. TV shows asked them to come on air. But Keanu protected them. Not yet. He told the world. They're still growing. Instead, he set up a private music program just for them and a few other kids from the shelter. Maya taught them voice. A jazz guitarist taught them rhythm. A poet came once a week to help them write lyrics. Ruby wrote a song called Nobody Clapped, but we still sang. Rose started playing piano with her eyes closed. They weren't just getting better. They were becoming artists. Elena started volunteering at the shelter, folding clothes, helping younger mothers, and sharing her story with women who had lost hope. One evening, after a long practice, Ruby sat next to Keanu on a bench outside the studio. Can I ask you something? She said. Anything, he replied. Why did you choose us? Keanu looked at the sky. Then he said, because the world is full of people screaming to be seen. But you sang quietly, and I heard you. Sometimes, the quietest voices carry the biggest truths. Ruby didn't speak. She just leaned her head on his shoulder. Rose came out and joined them. Three voices. No cameras. No stage. Just a quiet moment between hearts that understood each other. But everything was about to shift. Again, because a producer from New York had been watching them from a distance. He hadn't reached out yet, but he had plans. Big ones. Not all of them kind. And soon, Ruby and Rose would learn that the world that claps for you can also try to own you. Fame was coming. But so was a test, and Keanu knew he would have to protect them in a way he never had before. Asterisk louder than Fammoth call came on a quiet Sunday morning. Maya answered it first. She stepped out of the practice room, where Ruby and Rose were learning a harmony for their next song. When she returned, her face looked calm, but her eyes held something sharp. She said gently, girls, there's a music label that wants to meet you. Rose's eyes lit up. A label, like a real music people. Ruby was more cautious. What do they want? Maya glanced at Keanu, who had just walked in. He looked at her, then nodded for her to continue. They say they want to sign you. She said, they heard your songs online. They called it the most emotional debut they've heard in years. Keanu didn't say anything, not yet. He sat on the edge of the piano bench, listening. The girls were excited, nervous, full of questions. What kind of songs would they make? Would they travel? Would they get to buy their mom a real house? Maya answered carefully. They want to fly you to New York. They want full control of your music. They want to rebrand your image. Ruby blinked. What does that mean? Keanu finally spoke. It means they want to make you sound and look like someone else. The room went quiet. Rose whispered, but we already sound like us. Keanu nodded. Yes, and that's what matters. But the label didn't stop there. The next day, they sent contracts, pages and pages of complicated words. They offered a large amount of money upfront, more than Ruby and Rose could understand. They sent people in suits to the shelter, unannounced, offering free phones and clothes, trying to win them over. Elena refused to open the door. Keanu stepped in. He called a lawyer, a good one, someone who didn't chase money but protected artists. He read through the contract and said one line that made everything clear. They want to buy their story and sell it as their own. Keanu called a meeting. He sat down with Ruby, Rose, Elena, Maya, and Louise. He said, "You have a choice. We can walk away from all of this, or we do it our way." Ruby asked, "What is our way?" He looked at them and replied, "We build something small, something real, no big labels, no forced songs. We record what you want. We keep your voice." Rose said, "But what if we don't get famous?" Keanu smiled softly. "Then we stay free." The girls sat quietly. Then Ruby said, "I don't want someone else writing about buses like they were there when they weren't." Rose added, "I don't want to dress fancy to make someone listen." Elena nodded. "Then it's decided." They rejected the offer. A few blogs called them foolish. A couple industry insiders whispered that they wouldn't last long without support. But something happened. The rejection made headlines. Twin girls who sang on the bus turned down $1 million deal. People wanted to know why. So Maya uploaded a new video. Not a song. Just Ruby and Rose sitting on the studio floor, telling their story. They spoke about their mother, about hunger. About singing through fear. And about a man in a hoodie who once dropped a $20 bill in their tin can and asked them their names. Keanu never appeared in the video, but his presence was everywhere. The video went viral again. This time, it wasn't about talent. It was about truth. Within a week, a global campaign began. #Sing Your Truth. Independent artists across the world started sharing their raw stories. Real songs, real pain, no polish, no producers. Keanu helped launch a small label called Quietest. He let Maya run it. All proceeds went back to shelters like Luce's. Ruby and Rose released their first official album, Songs from the Sidewalk. Every track was based on memories. Hunger, kindness, fear, laughter, healing. The final track was titled, He Heard Us. It had no instruments, just the sound of the twins singing the exact way they did on the bus that first day, soft, shaking, honest. It reached millions. And yet, nothing changed in their hearts. They still helped Elena cook breakfast at the shelter. They still walked barefoot when it rained. They still sang, not for applause, but because their voices were finally free. On the 1-year anniversary of that bus ride, Keanu took them back to the same route, same bus, same seat. They stood at the back and sang again. No tin can. No crowd. Just them. And the driver, an old man who smiled and said, "I remember you girls. You sang like the sky." Keanu stood at the front, quiet, listening. After they finished, he walked over and sat beside them. "You changed the world," he said. Ruby shook her head. "You gave us the chance." He looked at both of them. "You gave me something to," he said. "You reminded me why I believe in people." They didn't hug him. They just leaned into him. No words. No camera. Just warmth. Because sometimes the loudest stories begin in silence. And sometimes the smallest voices carry the greatest truth.